Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast, supporting parents with the real-life tools they need to raise the confident, interdependent people the world needs. Gail Bell and Julie Friedman-Smith interview experts who share their knowledge to assist parents in creating a home environment where kids can thrive.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Real Life Parenting Podcast. This is Julie Friedman-Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
Today's podcast is brought to us by our sponsors, Beaner's Fun Cuts for Kids. Parenting is hard, haircuts shouldn't be. Visit beanersfuncuts.com for a location near you. Jennifer Kolari is an international speaker and the founder of Connected Parenting. A child and family therapist based in Toronto and San Diego, Kolari is the author of Connected Parenting, How to Raise a Great Kid, and You're Ruining My Life, but Not Really, Surviving the Teenage Years with Connected Parenting. Jennifer entertains and educates audiences with her powerful parenting model based on the neurobiology of love. We're excited to have you here. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Jennifer, maybe you can share with our listeners how you got started doing what you do.
Sure. I've been doing this about 30 years. And I got started many, many years ago when I finished my undergraduate degree in psychology, and I wanted to do some really important work. I wanted to get out there and work with real families and real kids. And I ended up working at a group home for street kids. So these kids were 11 to 16 years old. Each one had been traumatized. They were terrified. They'd been sexually abused and physically abused, and they were really suffering. They were really struggling, and they were tough, and they were scary, and I didn't know what I was doing. And here I am in this group home, which was semi-lockup. They all knew that I didn't know what I was doing. And we were instructed to disengage with these kids, to just not get too close to them, to not connect too much, because they would take advantage or they weren't there very long. But I actually physically could not do that. So when it was time for bed, I couldn't just shut the door. They're kids, and the makeup came off, and the teddy bears came out, and the jammies came on, and they turned back into little kids. So I'd rub their backs, and I'd sing them lullabies, and I'd tell them bedtime stories, and these really tough kids would melt into this routine. They didn't want to talk about it the next morning because it was embarrassing, but they melted into it. They were babies. And I noticed that the next day, when it was time for me to get those really tough, defiant behavioral kids to do the things I needed them to do, they were doing it for me. And something had shifted. Something had changed. They're in that moment of connection and empathy and just humanness. Something shifted, and the kids were very different with me the next day. And it got, the other staff were looking around and going, oh, she's a bleeding heart. They're going to walk all over her. They're going to take advantage of her. But that's not what happened. And that was really the beginning of Connected Parenting. That's when I knew, okay, I want to understand what's happening here. I want to understand, this is like a superpower. Behavior is never the problem. Behavior is a symptom of the problem. Mm-hmm. And so when you look beyond some of the prickly behavior, some of the nastiness into a child's eyes that's just in pain, that's just hurting. And it's pretty magical.
What an interesting start. Jumped right into the deep end, and it sounds like what came out of it was really, really very powerful.
Yeah, definitely. And I really devoted my career to understanding empathy. I worked at a children's mental health center for a number of years and really trained in self-psychology. And then I developed my own parenting method based on a technique called mirroring, which is really how to attune, how to use deep, deep empathy and connection as medicine to build resilience, to improve emotional organization. It's pretty amazing.
We use that word empathy a lot at Parenting Power, so it's great to hear you say that, because it's just, as you said, about being present and not trying to fix anything, but just really seeing and hearing and listening to those kids.
Yes, absolutely, which is harder. It's a lot harder than it sounds. Right? So when I teach parents my method, and we'll talk about the calm technique in a second, but it's very counterintuitive. Everything in you is telling you to do something else.
That's right. We all want to be fixing things for our kids. That seems to be the way of the world nowadays. But can you go more into that calm method? Talk about what that acronym means?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's sort of, I've broken down how to really mirror and attune into 4 different stages. And I've used the calm technique. So C is where you connect. This is where you would put your agenda down. Are you kidding me? I told you not to do that. And why won't you listen to me? And don't do that with your brother, and whatever's going on. You take that agenda and you park it. You get to bring it back. And then you're using your face, you're using your shoulders, you're using your body, you're using your it's all nonverbal really, to demonstrate that you're registering the urgency there, that you're really trying to see and hear your child. Then the A is the affect matching. So this is where the look on your face kind of has to match the look on their face. So if they're little and they come home and they say, oh, Julie, I thought Julia loved me, but she really loves Josh. You know, we want to smile. We think that's cute. We think that's kind of sweet. But if that's what's on our face and they're sad, there's going to be a neurological mismatch there and you're going to see an escalation. You really want non-verbally to be validating the facial expressions of the person that you're talking to, which stimulates the mirror neuron cells in the brain, releasing opiates, endorphins, and a very powerful hormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin blocks cortisol. It improves the immune system. It helps the person have an oxytocin-based response, so a response to their world instead of a reaction to their world. There's an incredible number of benefits from oxytocin. And so that's the part where it's really about how you listen, not so much what you say. And then the L, that's where you can paraphrase, you can summarize, you can clarify, and you can wonder out loud. And when you've done those 4 things, that's the M. You've mirrored. It's sort of pulled together how to have a really incredible moment. We can actually go through an example in a second, but I want listeners to know that most of us are pretty good at this. We already know how to do this with babies, right? Nobody would pick up a baby that's crying and go, what's wrong? Like, why are you crying? I don't understand. What is the matter with you? Nobody would do that with a baby. You'd look at the baby and go, oh my goodness, I know you're so upset and you don't feel good. You don't know what, the baby doesn't know what you're saying, but the baby sees on your face a perfect representation of what they are feeling. There's now a neurological match that now stimulates the mirror neuron cells so that oxytocin and opiates and those beautiful reward chemicals can flood the body deeply on a cellular level, calming the baby down. And we're pretty good at that. But you know what? We drop that right around the time of language acquisition. So when kids start talking, so let's say you have a baby that was crying because they were cold getting out of the bath. You know, we wouldn't just say, oh, we have had a bath every night. What's the matter with you? But what do we say when our 4-year-old won't get out of the bath or they're screaming? Now it looks different. Now it looks, honey, please get out of the bath. Mommy's getting very mad. Look at mommy's face. This is not a happy face. Mommy's getting, look at your brother. He's already in his pajamas. Please, just once. Can you, 1, 2, 3, 3.5. Now we start with our agenda. We are using language and we are really trying to fix the situation or move the child through the situation without taking a moment to mirror first. Right? So the calm technique, if we apply it to like say a 5-year-old in the bath, you don't just come in and say, okay, time to get out of the bath. Come on, let's go. No, I don't want to get out of the bath. Honey, please get out of the bath. Because you see how that's going to go. And you go, oh my gosh, I totally get how warm it is in this bath. You probably don't want to get out at all. No, I don't want to get out. I'm so comfy. It's so warm. I know, right? And then when you get out, you feel all cold. And so what you're doing is you're really embracing, you're present with your child right in the moment that they're in. And when that happens, you're going to have those beautiful reward chemicals release. And then your child is going to respond to you instead of react to you. And you're going to have a whole different experience. It won't work every time, but I'm telling you, it's like a superpower. It literally will work probably 90% of the time. It's astounding.
Right. And anything we do consistently in a positive way as parents, our children are going to respond to us that much more.
Absolutely. Well, here's the other thing you need to know. It doesn't just work on children. This works on everyone. It works on husbands, wives, colleagues, bosses. This is how to deeply attune to another human being and have a completely different reaction. See, when we don't get it right, when we come in and say, I don't care, you do this every night, blah, blah, whatever we're saying, we want them out of the bath, they're going to escalate. They're looking at you going, well, she doesn't get it. Like, I'm so comfy. I am so warm. I don't want to go to bed. When I lie in bed, I worry about all the stuff I don't want to think about. I'm really happy in the bath right now, and she doesn't get it. So what happens is they escalate. Any human being will. They will escalate in order to get you to understand how bad the situation is. So when we go in actually trying to de-escalate, what we're actually doing most of the time is escalating. And then we both get upset, and then we're angry. And then I have so many parents who are like, I was such a nice person before I had kids. I was so nice. I didn't yell at anyone. And now I yell all the time. And yelling, which is a very popular parenting technique, doesn't work. All it does is cause the person to feel like you haven't listened at all, and they either escalate or they're afraid. And then parents are promising themselves they're not going to yell the next day, and you end up yelling the next day, and you feel horrible about yourself, and it just ends up being a quagmire. So one of the things to remember is parents often think, oh, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to do that whole thing to get them out of the bath. But my answer is you don't have time not to.
Exactly.
You're doing it anyway. You're doing it anyway by screaming, yelling, or they get out of the bath and then they won't get dressed and then they're mad all night, and then it becomes a chain of pain, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think 2 words that really resonated with me was put your agenda aside and be present. And we know, well, we're not only reading the research, but we're also seeing it is parents distracted by screens. So I think we really have to listen to your words where you said, put your agenda aside and be present.
Absolutely. And you have to think, this is medicine. This is powerful, what we're talking about. This is absolute medicine. And I've worked with thousands and thousands of families. I get emails every day from people saying, I can't believe this. It really is a superpower. I can't believe it. The second thing, though, I want people to know is this is just the first half. This is just where you're creating psychological safety, right? This is where you're just increasing healthy compliance, and the child now feels so good that they want to get out of the bath because they love you, and that was a good, gushy moment, and they want another one. Right. The other part, though, is there's a lot of confusion around parenting today. Let me put it this way. A lot of parents are trying to parent in ways that worked when we were kids, right? So 25, 30, 35 years ago. They don't work anymore today. The world is different. Children are different. You were just talking about screens. Nothing looks the same, right? So kids are feisty and they're smart and they're not afraid of adults. Not that I want kids to be afraid of adults, but kids have no problem today saying, no, you're mean, not doing it, shut up. And we would never have spoken to adults that way as children. So children's have changed, the world has changed, but parenting hasn't always. The other flip side is there's a lot of beautiful parenting models, and there's nothing wrong with this. It's wonderful, where you look at your own issues and you're looking at your own childhood traumas and you're really trying to be aware of your reactions and be present and all of that stuff, which is great. But not if you're trying to get your kid out of the bath and they splash water in your face and tell you to shut up. It doesn't actually help you in the moment behaviorally. So the first part is you use this technique to chemically calm your child down. It's medicine. Then if they won't get out of the bath, now you have to be setting limits. So one of the things that's important to understand about children is there are not many adults, right? You guys know this, there are not many adults. So they don't have a fully formed brain. It takes 25 years to grow a frontal lobe. That's the part of the brain that organizes, motivates, shifts attention, inhibits, takes perspective. So we're not actually parents. We're actually substitute frontal lobes. That's what
Love it.
Right? So you create safety first, you engage, you use all of these beautiful neurochemicals to help calm your child down, to build resilience, to build a healthy brain. And then you come in a neutral, confident way without yelling, which is very difficult, but incredibly important, and provide that frontal lobe function, which you will have to do pretty much until your kids are 20. Mm-hmm. Less and less every year, but
that is a perfect segue into, just as you said, the next step, which you call the 3-step formula.
Exactly. So after you've done the mirroring, which really, you don't have to lie your child down and do a therapy session for an hour. We're literally talking about 3 or 4 statements. That's it. That's usually enough to get the child chemically calmed down. If it doesn't work, you're in a vortex. And if we have time, I can explain what that is after. So then the second part is you present the problem. But the problem is it's getting late. Can't be in the bath all night. The water's going to get cold. We got stuff we have to do. You want stories. And then I usually recommend that you take a second and just back up. And you say, I believe in you. I trust you. I know you're going to make a right choice. Remove yourself for a moment from the scenario if it's safe to do so. Really give that message of confidence. Let the child kind of think about it. And then when they do get out of the bath, don't have a parade. Don't be like, oh, you listen to me. Fantastic. Wonderful. Because that's giving them way too much power. When they get out of the bath, just a little high five. Awesome. Way to go. Good choice. Very low key. And then if they don't, and that would be the ideal solution, right? That they come out of the bath on their own. If they don't come out of the bath and they're really having trouble and they're splashing water everywhere and they're telling you they hate you, then you have to come up with consequences. And you mirror again. I get it. It's so frustrating. You don't like to be told what to do. The night is going so fast. I totally get it. But you know what, baby? You need to get out of the bath. And now it's now getting too late. So here's the thing. If you don't get out of the bath, X is going to happen. Right? And then it has to be a natural, meaningful consequence, but enough of a consequence that it has a little sting. And I know there's lots of parents that struggle with this and they think that's mean, but the message that I give to the families I work with is if you don't teach them these lessons, life will. And life is a much harsher teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So for example, Jennifer, if you're choosing not to get out of the bathroom now, then you're choosing for us not to have stories tonight.
Yeah, and that's just a natural consequence. Yeah. You use your time to sit in a lukewarm bath, which is not very fun at all, instead of being snugly in bed with mommy or daddy having a story. Right. And when you do reflect back on that, you don't do, now you see what you've done? You see? Now you don't have a story. Now don't you wish you'd done it different? It can't sound like that. If it sounds like that, it's an interesting way to look at things. Human beings really only have 2 emotions, love and fear. Mm-hmm. Anger and rage and all of that stuff, that's all fear. So when we parent from a place of fear, you see what happens when you don't listen to me? Don't you know I love you? When it sounds like that, they're not hearing the love part. They're only hearing the anger or the fear part. right? So what you want to do is reflect gently back and say, I totally get it. I get why you wanted to stay in the bath. And it seemed like such a good idea at the time. But then what happened? The water got kind of icky. Then you felt like you were in like cold soup. And now when it's time to actually get in bed and enjoy yourself, now look what happens, right? So you're actually helping them learn about cause and effect, and you're doing it in a way that's respectful. You're teaching, right? And learn to talk in sound bites. All of us do this. I do this too as a parent. We love to talk. Everything's a teaching moment. Like, it's got to be these powerful little sound bites, and then let it sit, let it resonate, let them think about it, and then a kiss on the head saying, hey, let's remember this so we can make a different choice tomorrow.
I love that idea. And at Parenting Power, we often will encourage parents, especially if they're reliving that same argument time and time again, to plan what that soundbite is going to be so that you don't launch into a major sermon. You can just get it down to some tight words that are going to be clear and without that anger. Yes,
absolutely. And the one thing I want to add to that, which is really important, is this technique, the calm technique, which sounds quite easy, is actually very difficult to master. It really takes a lot of practice. A, it's counterintuitive, and B, it sounds easy, but when you go to do it, you're like, what am I supposed to do again? So what I tell people is two things. One, you can always repair. So let's say you blew it and you lost it, because we all do. Like, what I love about connected parenting is you get to repair.
Yes.
Right? You just do. You're going to screw it up. Of course, we're all going to. So let's say you lost it and you're yelling and screaming and threatening all kinds of stupid stuff that we're not going to follow through on. The next day you can say, oh, remember yesterday when I flipped down, I got so mad that you didn't get it. I didn't actually stop and think about what was happening to you. You were so warm. You were so comfy. You really did. So you can go back and you can mirror a day later, 2 weeks later, a year later. It doesn't matter. The oxytocin still flows, and you're showing your child that you're thinking about them. You're reflecting on your own behavior. In fact, some of the most powerful moments and shifts happen because of those repair moments. The other thing is, I want parents to practice when their kid's not mad. It's very difficult to know how to do this when your own frontal lobe isn't working, right? When your limbic system is taken over and you're just mad, it's very difficult to remember these beautiful techniques. So use it when your child drawing a picture. Instead of saying, oh, that's beautiful, let's put it on the fridge. You go, whoa, look at the way you've got the sun shining off. It's reflecting off that sword. And I love the way, mirror to the picture. Use the calm technique in whatever your child is telling you. That's actually one of the most powerful ways to build resilience and emotional organization. That's how you give them these little doses of medicine all day long.
Yep. Sounds like a great plan. Now, I know our listeners will be frustrated if I don't bring up that word vortex that you mentioned.
Yes. So a vortex is when their frontal lobe has literally shut off. Okay. So the midbrain freaks out and it can override. They don't, then this when you're a parent, they get a crazy look in their eye, this this kind of look, and you just know that they're not home anymore. Like, you're literally dealing with a little cave person, right?
Yep.
In those moments, you can still mirror, but they may not actually de-escalate the same way. That's when you remove yourself. Now, you can't if your child is in the bath, because obviously they need to be observed unless they're much older. Let's say they're in their room and they're freaking out. This is when you say, look, I really tried hard to understand you. I get that you're having a hard time, but my presence in this conversation isn't helping anymore. So I'm going to give you some time. I'm going to give you some space. And that's when you remove yourself. So some kids will let you go, and then you'll come back in a few minutes later. Usually 10 to 15 minutes is how much they need to get calmed down again. That's how long it takes to relieve the limbic brain and have the frontal lobe back on again. And then you can start the process again. You mirror again. And if they're still in the vortex, I'm still upset. Okay, fine. You know what? We'll take another few minutes. I'll leave. What you're doing is you're sort of removing yourself from being part of the fuel and part of the drama. Because when you stay there engaged in that situation, you're usually just adding fuel to the fire.
Yep.
Some kids won't let you leave, and they'll hang on your leg and no, don't leave. And then they yell at you to get out, and then you go to leave and they go, don't leave. And it's just, you end up in this crazy kind of cycle. So what you can do is just disengage. You say, well, I'll just wait. I'm just going to wait till you're a little bit calmer, because this is kind of an ugly situation right now and none of us are very happy in it. So I'm just going to wait. So you don't have to physically remove yourself, but you can actually just kind of emotionally disengage a little bit, just until that frontal lobe comes back online.
Sounds great. And please, parents, don't go onto your phone while you're sitting there with them. Just be.
No, yeah.
Because
you might be looking up what to do when my child is in a vortex.
That's true. That's true.
No, don't do it. It really is important to model. And the more calm that you can stay, it's really, and listen, you're going to blow it sometimes. We all do. But, we sort of expect our kids to be able to get it together in the middle of being very angry. But how often are we able to do that?
Yeah.
If somebody came along and said, oh, you need to calm down. Like, you're not using any of the strategies you learned on the podcast this morning. Like, that's not going to work, right?
No.
So you want to be thinking, well, your child is going to be watching you and thinking, well, I'm, 8. What chance do I have of figuring this out when my mom or my dad can't even figure it out? So the more we're modeling this for our own children and for ourselves, the better it works for everyone. And I just want to add too, it's so important to use the calm technique all the time as practice, because the more you use it, the better you get at it. But I also want parents to use it on themselves. Parents are so hard on themselves. I would say the thing I hear the most often, and it's usually from moms, is I'm the worst mother in the world. Mm-hmm. I hear that all the time. Parents are so hard on themselves. Parenting is tough, and it is getting tougher for a lot of reasons. And you've got to be kind to yourself. You have to use the same compassion, the same understanding when you are reflecting back on the choices that you made on your parenting the day before or that night while you're lying in bed berating yourself.
Wow. So many amazing tools for parents to be able to use, and so clearly stated. Jennifer, we always ask our guests to share a real life parenting tool that they've used successfully in their family. Do you have one to share with us today?
I do. Well, aside from the calm technique, I would actually talk about baby play or limbic bonding. Really, really important. And it doesn't matter how old your children are. This is where no matter what kind of day you've had with your child, that you take time to just rub noses, put your hands on their cheeks, gaze into their eyes for a moment, talk to them in a baby voice. Come here, you. I don't care if you're 12, you're the cutest little. Like, get in there and do that. And do it genuinely.
Yeah.
Tell them stories when they're a baby. Show them baby videos. You will get a massive uptake in oxytocin when you do that. And what I say to parents is, some parents are like, oh, my child is so difficult. They're so nasty. Why am I going to do that? They're so mean. They've been so horrible all day. And my answer is, the child that you least feel like doing this with is the child that needs it the most. They are getting a blast of oxytocin. And by the way, so are you when you do this. If you ignore everything I say to you today and you just do this, you will see a change in your child's behavior. It will have a direct impact on emotional regulation and on anxiety. It's medicine. Oxytocin is powerful, powerful medicine. So do that every day for a few minutes, and don't have any teaching moments in it. Don't do it with, hey, see what I'm doing? Isn't this great? Don't pay attention. Just naturally have this beautiful, gorgeous moment with your children. We all think we do it, but you know what? We really don't do it as much as we think we do.
Yeah. Jennifer, that is awesome. We could talk to you for a very long time. It's been so great speaking with you, so practical and so real life. We just can't thank you enough for sharing your time and information. Let us know where our listeners can find out more information from you.
connectedparenting.com. I also have a podcast, which is on iTunes and all the different places that podcasts are. And I also have an online parenting course, really goes deeply into the stuff that we talked about today. I've even got 6 professionally shot videos with improv actors. They're actually hysterical, where they pretend to be kids, and then we do a before and after, what it looks like when you don't use the calm technique, and then what it looks like when you do. And there's a monthly coaching call and email support. Oh, and then the books, of course.
Wonderful. So many ways that people can access you. Thank you for your time today, and we look forward to learning more from you along the way.
You're so welcome. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
We hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Real Life Parenting Podcast. If you're looking for more real life parenting tools, then please sign up for our weekly Thoughtful Thursday email newsletter. It's free and it's really good. Just visit our website, parentingpower.ca, to subscribe. While you're there, check out our book, A Year of Intentional Parenting. Like this podcast, the book was created to help you feel confident, capable, and calm. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to connecting with you again right here every Monday.